Bienvenidos a una rueda de prensa aquí en el Festival de Sitges, rueda de prensa de la película que presentamos en la sección oficial Sitges Collection y que es The Substance, la sustancia, que bueno, que poco voy a decir ya porque es una de las películas más esperadas, más importantes del fantástico del 2024. Yo tengo que decir que su directora, Coralie Fargeat, ya estuvo en este festival con Revenge y consiguió algo que nadie ha conseguido, es decir, ganar el premio a la mejor director Nobel y a la mejor directora de la película, del festival, es decir, dos premios referidos a la puesta en escena, a la dirección en el mismo festival. Y yo tengo que decir que La Sustancia sobre todo es un estupendo ejemplo de lo mejor de eso que llamamos la puesta en escena. Y en este sentido la puesta en escena en género fantástico, porque si algo está claro, y no solo por sus imágenes y por su contenido, es que La Sustancia es una película de género fantástico y le gusta serlo, que eso es lo que la hace grande. Así que paso la palabra a Coralie. Bienvenida a Sitges. Welcome to Sitges.
Thank you so much.
Y congratulations for the movie. Empezamos la rueda de prensa. Thank you.
Yo quisiera saber, porque es un proyecto tan diferente a la anterior, a Revenge, que es una película que, bueno, está muy bien, o sea, es increíble, pero claro, aquí hay un salto estratosférico. Entonces, es saber si quizás este proyecto ya lo tenías antes pensado, incluso antes que Revenge, que quizás es más comercial, se puede pensar, ¿no?
So first of all, thank you, Angela. I'm so happy to be back in Sitges. I remember that I was here for Revenge, and it was one of the most incredible screening with that amazing audience. So it's really, I'm super honored and happy to be back. So I didn't have the project before Revenge, but the theme in itself is something that I'm kind of working around for a long time. And there are even like themes that are kind of the same in Revenge, even if it's a very different movie. I think both of the movies are related to how you can be seen as a woman and how it can impact your life. And in Revenge it was more on the outside level, and in The Substance it's more in the inside. And after Revenge, I really asked myself what I want to do, because the movie was well critically received, and I had opportunities to direct things that I didn't write. But I took some time to think, and I understood that I wanted to keep writing my own stories, also to be able to create my own world and still push my vision in a way that I hope is specific and express things that are really inside me and that can be played very powerfully with the genre. But I also know that to be able to do this one, I needed to do Revenge first, because this one is a bigger project, and so it's Revenge who helped me being able to gather everything I needed to do this one in a bit bigger scale, while keeping my creative freedom in the process.
Gracias por este excelente y salvaje body horror. He visto muchas influencias de muchísimas películas y de grandes maestros como David Cronenberg, ¿no? Y todo este concepto de la nueva carne, de David Lynch con El hombre elefante, y también incluso de los pasillos de El resplandor de Kubrick. Entonces quería preguntarte cómo han influido en ti todos estos maestros y cuál ha sido ese proceso de llevar a cabo la película gracias a todas estas influencias.
I kind of remember my Spanish lessons. I think I understand. I hope the answer would be good. Yeah, so basically it's I grew up with those movies that built me in terms of creativity, in terms of imaginations. I always say that to me cinema was something where I felt at ease to live my life. I didn't feel very much at ease in the real life, and when I was watching film, I felt that I was, having so much fun and a great life that was very challenging. And I truly believe that everything that you see, everything that you read, everything, you know, that you go through your life kind of live within you and is part of also crafting who you are going to be as a specific self. And basically when I write, I very much welcome all those influences, while of course redigesting me to make them my own and create what I want for the movie. But it's true that I think all the references that you mentioned are totally accurate, and it's like films that had a massive influence on me and that truly impact me, because like they use the cinematic language to tell the story. And that's also the way I function. Like when I write, I don't write a lot of dialogues. And for me, the way to tell the story is very much by getting images and sound together, which are going to create an experience for the audience. And it's this experience that kind of speak to the important underneath themes that I want to address. And I think like in the movie that you mentioned, a lot is not explained. There is a lot that lives underneath in the kind of unconscious life of the film, which is, I think, so great because it speaks to the imagination of everyone. Like, and I think everyone can also see and receive something different. I think it's like when you read a book, there is so much, you know, each one is gonna imagine his own images, and I think for the directors that you mentioned, there is a lot of creativity that is around, that is, you know, kind of allow the audience to enter his own journey and his own, you know, psychedelic trip. And for the, you know, the Kubrick reference you mentioned, I saw in fact like to the Odyssey 2001 very late. I think I was like maybe 23 or 24. And I remember that I was so impressed about how, you know, the way to tell the story without any words for so long, you know, into the film, and the way it kind of hooked me. And I really admire this for, you know, the filmmaking process. And so for this one, like, when I write, I really welcome the ideas the way they come. I know they are here for a meaning. I don't intellectualize it when I write, but I know that it's here on a purpose that I often understand a bit later on. And I also kind of like to do like more obvious homage, you know, to the movies that I loved. And I think that, yes, all this is part of me, and I inject my own, you know, brain and creativity to create my own, you know, genre and universe.
Yo te quería preguntar por Demi Moore, cómo llega al proyecto, teniendo en cuenta que los últimos años no había estado tampoco muy activa y los últimos años no había tenido tampoco mucha repercusión ninguno de sus trabajos. Y comentar que ahora se está también publicando que tú has hecho con Demi Moore o parecido a lo que hizo Tarantino con John Travolta en Pulp Fiction, que es como un retorno.
Yes, well, I like that you say that, because I was thinking exactly the same when we started to discuss. Like, for me, I really thought like for an actress, you know, it's true, who hadn't been in movies since a long time, it's always beautiful when there is, you know, a project that kind of bring them to life again and create so much attention, and most importantly reward her work and the impressive performance that she does. So it started like when I wrote, I knew from the start that I wanted an actress who would be an icon, you know, who would represent in herself like the best symbol, you know, of how it is to live with, you know, being under the public eye and kind of putting your self-worth into the eyes of people who look at you. And I think basically that's what I think every woman lives. And to me, the biggest symbol of that, because I work a lot with symbols, is the actress, you know, figure, because like basically this is what what she does, and when the light is here and the love is there, she feels that she's worth something, and when, you know, the eyes look away, it's like if everything, you know, disappear. I knew like that the casting would be very challenging because basically it's like confronting an actress to her worst phobia, you know, like, because the movie is really about what we, I think, all are scared of. And so I know it would be challenging to find at the same time an actress which had this iconic, you know, resonance together with someone who would be willing to take the risk, you know, to come on a project that was very challenging because it's innovative, you know, like it's not something, you know, that they do every day. So when you do something that is new, when afterwards it's well received, it's great, but in the process it's much more difficult because you have to convince people to commit to something that they don't know yet how it's going to be. So I knew that I was going to face a lot of no's, which happened. And to be honest, when the name of Demi came on the table, when we were discussing with my producers at some point, I really thought, we shouldn't lose time, you know, with her, because I'm sure she will never want to go on something like that. I really thought she was like too, you know, careful about her image, and she would never be willing to play with it and, you know, and destroy it for the movie somehow. But I said, okay, we have nothing to lose. Let's send the script, but let's not lose time waiting, because I'm sure it's not going to work. And when we received an answer that she really clicked on the script, I was very surprised and of course intrigued, because I think it was an amazing idea. But I needed like to really meet with her, and I needed to discuss a lot with her about the film in its every challenging parts, to be sure that she understood where she was going to step in, because, you know, it's great when you have an amazing actor who shows interest for your work, but then you have to shoot it together. And so for me, for it to be successful, I needed to be sure that she was aware of everything that I wanted to do with the project, because it's a very specific vision which relies a lot on visual, sounds, not a lot of dialogue, so a lot of the performance have to interact and build together with the filmmaking. And I needed to explain everything on that to her, to be sure that she understood and was willing to kind of change her work habits, because also when you shoot with prosthetics and in a very technique specific way, you shoot in a very different way when it's more like traditional movies, let's say. There is also the nudity part that for me was very important, to explain her very precisely in everything that I wanted to shoot and why I wanted to shoot it, because for me each shot has a precise meaning and means something depending on how I wanted to film it. And same thing, I needed to be sure that she would understand and feel at ease with that, so she can then create her own performance and give the best of herself for the part. And it was also share with her the fact that we were not a huge Hollywood production compared to the movies that she was used to. We were shooting in France in a more indie, you know, configuration. So we wouldn't have all the, you know, huge entourage and everything that she was probably used to in the movie she did before. For me, once I shared this, and that she still showed a very strong desire to be on the project, I understood that she was coming for the good reasons, and that it was like something that you never know how a movie is gonna go, but like it was, I know the ingredients that I needed to be sure that we could succeed together. And I also read more about her life. She had given me a copy of her autobiography, and I really discovered another side of her that I didn't know from the movie I grew up with. And I discovered someone who really took a lot of risk already in her life. She was a kind of free spirit. She never did things that were expected from her. She also made herself on her own, like really making her way into a very male-dominated industry. And she discovered also someone who has a strong instinct. And all this made me understand that, okay, she really is someone who liked to take risk and trust her instinct. And I discovered someone who is very, yes, rock and roll, you know, who go into places where you don't necessarily expect. And I think ultimately that also, of course, the theme of the movie completely resonated with what she, in her own life, she's been through, and that she was in a phase of overcoming, like she was, in a moment where she was taking control on her life again. And I think it was the perfect moment for this project to happen for her. And I'm like, when we decided to work together, I had the same, so then you, like, to me it was like John Travolta for Pulp Fiction. And I'm kind of so happy that, now she's the center of interest, and like, she's back basically, and she deserved it. And I think her performance is incredible, and all the risk like she took, she took them for the good reasons. And I think that's the magic of cinema, like you can't lie in a film, and I think this sincerity kind of reached the audience. So I'm super proud of the work that we did together.
And I have two questions very quickly. The first one is, how is for you being here for the second time in that magnificent and international festival? And the second question is always on my media. I search my listeners the behinds of the projects, because I think it's very important. You talk about that movie shoot in France, in France, and about the silence of the sound. And I will, if you can talk about the behind of that movie, the shoot of about very complicated for you, or even you liked most doing. Thank you for.
Yes, so first of all, as I was saying at the beginning, I'm really happy to be here again, because like I think, like, to me, like, festivals who really love genre films are truly special, because I was speaking about the sincerity of the audience, and I think here the audience is not shy to react. And to me, like, experiencing the movies with the Sitges audience was really a huge shock for Revenge. It was one of the best, screening that I had. And hearing, the audience react and really go for the ride with, kind of sharing the cinema experience is something very special. And I had a very strong memory of, how the movie was received in Sitges. That's why it was very important for me to be able to be here again, because this one is obviously a love letter to genre film, and I'm very happy to present it in the audience who is very sensitive to that. And it's an interesting question about, yes, the way that I shot the movie, because I knew that one of the big challenge of the film would be like to keep, absolutely its creative freedom, because I think it's really the core and the soul of the film, while, needing a bit kind of a bigger budget than Revenge. And I knew that I needed to do that movie with the American, actors into a world that was very international, so it can really speak to very, very wide audience. But, mixing those two elements can be very difficult, because it's kind of antagonist, usually things that you have in mind. So for me, the way I knew was the right way to shape the project was, first of all, to write it on my own, like without committing to anyone until the script was there. So basically I wrote the movie on spec, so that the partners who would then join me would know what they step into, because you have an idea, and then it can give like 1,000 different scripts. And I knew that I needed everyone who comes on board to really know what they were stepping into. And I wanted to co-produce the film because it was also for me a way to kind of shape the production and the shooting the way that would work for what I needed. And the fact that I shot everything in France with my crew that I knew was definitely a way to keep, you know, the creative bubble freedom that we were in our own world. And I shaped the movie in the way that the movie needed it. Like, we had an extremely long shoot because we had so many prosthetics that it was very demanding in terms of hours of preparation. So we kind of designed the shooting days in the artisanal way that worked for the films and not according the book. Like, we didn't do anything like normally we do on shootings. And that's what the crew, you know, understood at some point, that it was our own way to creating our own rules to give us the creative input that would make the difference. So it was very experimental on a lot of, you know, degrees, and I think it's also part of what, you know, gave the movie this very specific vision and vibe, because in the way we did it, we didn't do it by the book. We invented and created our own way to do it. And I think having this mix of, you know, more international production, but doing it in a more indie French way, with me protective, you know, the creative freedom of the movie, I think was the kind of magic, you know, that happened, magic that was very, you know, a lot of work to keep, to fight for, but that allowed the movie to be coherent with the intentions. So yeah, I think the behind the scene of the shooting is very interesting in terms of how we created all this in a way.
No hay tiempo para más, no hi ha temps per res, per més preguntes. Gràcies també especialment a Match Factory Movie Elástica, especialmente por tener la película aquí. Y nada, suerte esta tarde. A lot of people in the screen today for this movie. Y felices de que una película dirigida por una mujer sea un evento en el fantástico de hoy y en este festival. Gracias.